Hey, thanks for clicking on this video. My name is Zaji and today I want to share with you a little bit about some sewing things. In particular, we are going to be talking about McCall's 8138, which is the pattern that I'm wearing today and that you will be hearing me talk all about in this video. If you like pattern reviews, leave me an emoji down below in the comments section, and if you love sewing content, then I encourage you to subscribe to this channel and continue watching. So when I first purchased this pattern, which you could see, I talk about it a little bit in my pattern haul, which I'll have linked up there for you, I knew immediately that I wanted to make this pattern, and I already had ideas of what I wanted to make this pattern in, like what fabrics I wanted to use. And when I saw this pattern, at first I thought that maybe they were using like a scuba, which you all know I love scuba fabric, but it's actually not scuba. I don't think they use that here because it recommends a two-way stretch fabric, and I thought that was a little bit strange because I don't usually see a request for two-way stretch. You can use two-way stretch for a lot of knit garments, but this one specifically said two-way stretch knit, and I was just like, scuba then might have a little bit too much elasticity for this pattern, but it would probably work too because I think they're just looking for something more stable and not as drapey. So when I saw this Lady McElroy stretch velvet fabric, I knew that it was going to be the perfect candidate for this design. For this dress, I used Lady McElroy's stretch velvet. This is in the Crowded Faces design, which I've seen on so many different bases from them, but I honestly have been obsessed with the velvet base. I just think it looks so just high end. I am just really pleased with this stretch velvet. This stretch velvet fabric that I am using for this design came from Minerva.com. It is the Lady McElroy Crowded Faces stretch velvet. Like, I love the design of these faces. I've seen it on a lot of different bases, and when I saw that it was offered in stretch velvet, I knew I had to snap it up. I was very kindly gifted this fabric in order to make this design, and I think that they were such a match made in heaven. However, the stretch requirements weren't exactly lined up in my favor because this fabric has a 35% stretch width-wise. So it does only have two-way stretch. However, this pattern wanted 50% crosswise. Now this fabric crosswise was just under 50%, so it was slightly too or slightly less than I really needed. So what I did to kind of get around that was to cut my same size 12. You all know that that's typically the size that I cut, especially with McCall's. I usually find that that has the ease that I'm looking for in a garment. So what I did was cut the size 12 because I wanted to be able to have this pattern to be already usable for a fabric that did meet the stretch requirement if I wanted to make it again. So I cut the size 12, but instead of taking the 5/8 seam allowance within the side seam, I simply took a 1/4 inch on the side seams. And that gave me just under 3/4 of an inch of extra room in this dress. And because this fabric does stretch, I feel like it was the perfect adjustment. I wish that I had also done that same adjustment to the sleeve seams as well, just in the sleeve side seams, because that would have given me a little bit closer of an ease to the ease that the sample has. And I also probably could have standed to lengthen the sleeves so that it matched the sample a little bit closer as well. However, that's not the fabric's fault. I could have taken less for the side seam so that it has more movement, but the length has nothing to do with the fabric. That was just an adjustment I didn't make. I very well could have, and I should have known that with long sleeves, especially with a pattern from McCall's or Simplicity or really even Vogue, I do need to lengthen the sleeves because my arms are just that little bit longer than the average pattern block. So otherwise, I'm super happy with the fit of this dress. And I feel like if you were also making this dress, if you're someone who's using the appropriate fabric, you can stand to cut the size that you normally do wear within these patterns. So that's something that I do love, that there is a pretty good consistency throughout McCall's patterns and Simplicity's patterns, especially for sizing. Unless you get into the oversized garments, which is a whole other story. So for this pattern, I did use also a zipper from my stash. This zipper is 9 inches from the end of the zipper tape to the beginning of the zipper tape. So the actual length of the zipper was 9 inches. However, this pattern is looking for the actual zipper, the usable zipper length, I think, to be 9 inches. So from the zipper stop to where the zipper, I don't know what the beginning part of the zipper is called, but where the usable zipper teeth space should be 9 inches long. So I would say to err on the side of caution and get a longer zipper if you are planning on doing the exposed zipper in the front. It'll make it so that the pattern is a lot easier for you to just follow as it simply is written. I had to kind of play around with where I put the zipper so that it would fill the space designed for the zipper. And I definitely think you do need that full 9 inches because this is a tighter fitting dress. So you do want to have an opening, and because it's only two-way stretch, you definitely want to have the full length of the zipper. So I could have just like made a shorter cut than the one that they recommend. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. It's not something I'm going to do now, and I don't think that it makes the dress look terrible or anything, but it is just something that kind of annoyed me while I was putting this zipper in. I do feel like if you are an advanced beginner or someone who has put in a zipper before, that you'd be able to make this pattern, even though it does say it is a level 2, which I think is their like intermediate level. So I think if you give yourself a little bit of time, the instructions on how to put in the exposed zipper in this pattern was really thorough. So I think that if you just take your time and follow the instructions, that you could definitely put this zipper in and make this dress as a beginner. If you are making this pattern, I would say to go for maybe an 11-inch zipper just to be sure, so that you're not having to squeeze as much, because I think they're supposed to be zipper higher up in the collar as well, but mine doesn't go all the way up to the top because my zipper wasn't long enough to do that. I think it does make it though so that when I do have this zipped up all the way, I don't have like a zipper stabbing me in the neck, which is nice. But I do wish that it did go up just that little bit higher. So if you are making this pattern, I would say to definitely just err on the side of caution and get the longer zipper tape, because you can always just cut away the excess at the top and fold it down and finish it the same way that they have it in the pattern, and it'll just, I think, have a little bit more finesse to it. I did of course use yellow, as you can see. I love like mustard yellow shades, and I thought that that just obviously is such a beautiful contrast with black and white. Such a classic color combination. I love this dress so much. I think it looks really nice. And whenever I wear it, I just feel so posh and fancy, because who doesn't when you're wearing velvet? And there's only a small window of time where I feel appropriate wearing velvet, because when if I were to wear velvet in like the springtime, I feel like it just looks out of place. In summertime, obviously it's too hot. And fall time, I feel like you're jumping the gun. But wintertime is just like the best velvet time. So I needed to have a velvet dress, and I love this one because the crowded faces are just so chic. It is such a nice style that I think would be really beautiful in so many other fabrics as well. It is pretty quick to sew up. I did use my serger to construct this garment, but I used my sewing machine obviously to do the zipper, but everything else I used my serger. I did cover stitch this dress, which is a change because you all, I learned something really important about my serger, and I know I talk about it in every single pattern review, but it is one of my favorite machines. It is one of my favorite machines because it has so many features I didn't know. So I'm a dodo who didn't read my manual, and I found out that it has like a function to do some of the threading within my serger for me, and also for the cover stitch. And the part that I hate the most about switching my machine from a serger overlocker to a cover stitch machine is that the threading within the inside of the machine is hard, because you can't really see as far back as the parts go in the machine, so you're kind of like guessing in there. But my machine has a function on there that does the threading for you, and it blew my mind. I don't even know what I was doing before this point, but anyway, it takes seconds to thread my machine now, when it used to take me much longer than that. Like, there will be days where I'm just like, listen, I'll come back tomorrow to change this machine over so I can finish things. Or I just didn't, and I would use a zigzag or like a twin needle in my sewing machine to finish knit garments. But I was so happy to use my cover stitch. I used a 3-thread cover stitch, so it has 3 lines that go all around, and of course it has the like loops on the back. And I did that for the hem as well. So the hem of this dress, as you can tell, is quite curved. So it's not a straight across hem. It has a pretty significant curve in it. And I knew that just easing that kind of garment into a hem is really just not practical. You're not going to have an even look. It's going to take you forever. And so what I did to hem this dress was do a basting stitch that was 1.25 inches from the hemline of this dress. And I finished the edge of the hem, like the raw edge, with my serger, because this stretch velvet tends to curl when you cut it at a curved shape. My gosh, that was so hard to say. When you cut it at a curved shape, it does tend to curl a little bit under. So by finishing the edge with my my overlocker, that really made it so that I could get a really nice precise basting stitch around the edge to mark where my hem turn would be. So the edge of my hem is where I did the basting thread. And so what I did after that was pull on the basting threads, and that gathers the fabric just enough to bend it right at where that hemline is. So all I did after that point was pin the hem into place, and I used my cover stitch to finish off the hemline, and that gave me such a neat and beautiful hem. Like, I am obsessed with the finish of this dress. I am so pleased with this make, because I feel like taking some of the extra time to do the steps that I did, especially with finishing like the hem on the bottom, made it look just a lot more professional and looks so nice. But it is a technique that you can definitely still do with just a sewing machine as well. So if you were going to do the same kind of technique on a sewing machine, you would just take a zigzag stitch, and I would say to take a zigzag that's real wide but shorter. So like, you would have the width of the stitch to be maybe like 5 millimeters, and maybe have the distance between it being like 2.5 to 3 millimeters, and go around the edge and finish off the raw edge and do the same basting stitch. And then instead of obviously finishing your hem with a cover stitch, you could use the same kind of zigzag to do the hem, or you could do a twin needle if you like to use your twin needle with your sewing machine as well, and get a really nice finish to this dress. They don't recommend that you do that in the pattern, and I think with how curved this hem is, it's something that will definitely help you to ease in the hemline, because you're taking something that's wider into something that's smaller. But because the circumference of your hem is technically going to be smaller than the raw edge of your hem, it's harder to ease it in with it not looking crazy and uneven and kind of all over the place. So I think that tip definitely did really help elevate the finish of this garment.